Music out of nowhere. George slammed the brakes aggressively, under a safety car. You're probably wondering, what just happened? But this wasn't a random outburst. Something triggered him, something calculated. If you think these were just regular mid-race frustrations, think again. These were calculated radio messages, timed during one of the most mentally charged races of the season. It all unfolded in Montreal, late in the race, safety car on track, just a few laps remaining. George Russell and Max Verstappen weren't just adjusting tire temperatures or managing their delta targets. What they were really doing was testing each other mentally, and using the team radios as tools. Later, when officials took a closer look at the data, the situation wasn't as black and white as many expected. It wasn't clear who had made a mistake or if someone was simply playing smart. What was certain, two of Formula One's sharpest minds had entered a mental standoff. On one side, a driver holding the lead. On the other, someone carrying 11 penalty points, just 1 point away from missing a race entirely. And not just any race. It was Red Bull's home weekend in Austria. One more slip up and Max would be watching it from the garage. Red Bull didn't take it lightly. Even before the lights went out, they had already warned the FIA, watch out for anyone trying to push Max into a mistake. No one expected that warning to unfold exactly the way it did. So now the big question, was Russell intentionally provoking Verstappen, hoping he'd cross the line and get himself banned? Or was Red Bull caught off guard, falling into a trap they never saw coming? Coming into Montreal, Max Verstappen wasn't just carrying the weight of expectations, he was carrying the risk of suspension. After a controversial clash with Russell during the Spanish Grand Prix, the stewards handed Max a 10-second penalty, along with 3 more penalty points. That brought his total to 11, one more, and he'd be forced to sit out the next race. And not just any race, Red Bull's home turf. There's a rule in Formula One, penalty points expire only after a full 12 months. So for Max, both Canada and Austria became crucial. He had to finish both races clean. No incidents, no aggressive missteps, no mistakes. And George Russell, let's just say he noticed. After securing pole position in Montreal, Russell couldn't resist adding a little spice. With a grin, he said, "We're mates. I've still got a few points left on my license to play with." That line didn't sit well with Red Bull. They were worried. So much so, that before the race began, they walked over to FIA race director, Rui Marquez. Their message was clear. Keep a close watch. They believed some teams might try to push Max into committing an error. They even used the word gamesmanship in their request, implying someone might play mind games or create situations to trap Max into breaking a rule. And then, lap 67 happened. The two McLarens, Norris and Piastri, made contact. That crash brought out a Latrace safety car. Russell was in front, Verstappen was behind him. Just 3 laps left. The grid was now stacked tight. The pressure was enormous. And this is where the mind games truly kicked in. Not everything you're about to read made it to the TV broadcast, but recently surfaced radio messages revealed a completely different picture of how it all played out on track. Lap 68, Verstappen's voice crackles over the radio. He's going so slow. What is he doing? Just ahead, Russell had hit the brakes hard, again. His engineer Jerome D'Ambrosio kept it calm. "Okay, thanks. We'll check for anything unusual." Seconds later, Verstappen briefly moved ahead of Russell under the safety car. That's usually a violation. You're forced into it. And immediately after, Russell jumped on the radio as well, saying, "Something just made me brake like that under the safety car." It was a tense moment. Both drivers had their eyes on each other, and both were ready to speak up the second things felt suspicious. They weren't just racing. They were watching, calculating. Then, on lap 69, things got even stranger. The safety car led the field through the pit lane because there was debris scattered across the main straight. As the cars exited, Russell backed off again more than usual. And again, Verstappen reported it on the radio. "He's pulling back too much." The reply from the engineer, "Thanks, noted." Now here's the critical detail. The FIA rule says that the leader must stay within 10 car lengths of the safety car. Red Bull argued that Russell had clearly dropped beyond that range. They claimed he even checked his mirrors before slowing down. Mercedes, on the other hand, said Russell was simply following the dashboard's delta time, which adjusts for caution zones like yellow flags. When the FIA investigated, they didn't find clear proof of foul play, so Red Bull's protest was dismissed. Officially, there was no rule broken, but the feeling, it wasn't exactly a clean, straightforward moment. Something about it felt, loaded now. Let's pause and look at this from George Russell's angle. He knew Max Verstappen was walking a razor's edge. One more penalty point, and Max would be sitting out Red Bull's most important weekend. George also knew how the rules around Delta safety car conduct, like braking or slowing for Delta times, have a little flexibility. He didn't need to make Verstappen break the rules. He just needed Max to feel like he was being set up. Pressure someone hard enough, and they start second-guessing their own decisions. Overtake too early. Penalty, brake too late. Penalty, react without thinking. Game over. Red Bull firmly believed that Russell was trying to push Verstappen into exactly that kind of mistake. Christian Horner didn't mince words after the race. he said plainly. We saw it coming. We warned the FIA, and Max handled it brilliantly. This wasn't about lap times or tire wear. This was mental. A normal race suddenly felt like a chessboard, where every move had hidden meaning, and Russell, he was playing each one with precision. What makes this situation even more fascinating is how Verstappen responded. For someone often known for aggressive moves and fiery reactions, he kept things remarkably cool. He didn't make a bold lunge, he didn't break formation, he didn't overreact. Instead, he stayed calm, followed the rules, listened to instructions, and swallowed the frustration lap after lap. Then came lap 70, the final one. At the pit exit once again, Russell appeared to slow down. Verstappen picked up the radio one more time. Look at this, engineer replied. Got it, Max. We'll take a look. Thanks. That was the last word before the checkered flag. The race ended under safety car conditions. Russell took the win. Max crossed the line second, and most importantly, no new penalty point was added to Verstappen's license, at least. Not yet. So, the race in Canada wrapped up quietly, at least on the surface. Russell stood on the top step of the podium. Verstappen settled for second. But beneath that calm finish, the race had turned into something far more layered than just fast cars and quick laps. Red Bull didn't win the official protest, but they walked away knowing Verstappen had managed to stay within the lines just barely. And for once, it wasn't Max triggering the drama. It was George who played it smart, sharp, and some might say, sly. But here's where it gets even more interesting. This wasn't just about one race or a clever bit of racecraft. There's a bigger backdrop playing out. George Russell's future at Mercedes isn't fully locked in. His victory in Montreal helped, sure, but the rumors about Verstappen possibly heading to Mercedes in 2026, they haven't gone quiet. Everyone in the paddock knows it. Russell knows it. Verstappen definitely knows it, which means every move Russell makes, every battle, every radio call might be doubling as a message to his own team. I'm your guy. And if Mercedes really is considering Verstappen for a future seat, then each of these head-to-head moments isn't just racing, it's a job interview. That's why this wasn't just a mind game between two rivals. It was Russell staking a claim, not just for a win, but for his place in the team's long-term plans. Ironically, the more he wins, the more pressure he puts on himself. Because if Verstappen does end up in silver, Russell won't just be fighting for wins, he'll be fighting for his seat. The season isn't even halfway done, and already the tension is sky high. Verstappen's still leading, but every point matters. Russell's gaining confidence, but every move is under the microscope. The FIA is stuck balancing strict rule enforcement with keeping the sport fair and watchable. And fans, they've just seen how racing rules can turn into weapons, and how the sharpest drivers are now using them. So what started as a safety car period in Montreal, it might have just triggered one of the most intense rivalries of the year, and the next round. It's in Austria, Verstappen's backyard. One mistake, one penalty point, and everything could change.